Welcome to this week's edition of In the Winner's Circle. Renee Cairns, Jennifer Morrison. This and every edition brought to you by the HBBA of Ontario. Lots to look forward to this weekend, Jennifer. But first, let's close off last week with your three things. You got three things.
I got 3 things. I probably could have had 10 things because it's been really exciting. Lots of stakes action, lots of horsemen doing very well, and lots to look forward to. But, last week for sure, we have to pay attention to the Baker's half dozen.
That's good. I like it.
Reed Baker won 6 races from Wednesday through Sunday, including the one day where he won 3 races and finished second in the other one. No stakes wins, but the horses that won were a nice 2-year-old prospect by the name of Jose C. View for Brereton Jones, won his debut, leading all the way. Bear Tough Tiger got back on the winning track, winning an allowance optional claimer on the grass. And even Reed Baker's own horse, More Than Bandow, won at 23-1. So, top trainer Reed Baker having a big week.
What else?
Well, we had the 2 stakes races for 2-year-olds, and we have our leaders now in the 2-year-old filly and colt division. The fillies, the Ontario debutante, Skylander Girl, leaving Conquest Whiplash in her dust. Skylander Girl, what a story for owner and trainer Alex Padowich, and now he's claimed 2 horses. He says he's not going to sell this lovely filly because the money is for his grandkids. So.
And he got another big offer after that win.
I'm sure
still
he
turned
did.
it down. I got to wish him luck because that is gutsy.
Yeah, and she's a daughter of Stroll, who stands at Claiborne Farms for $5,000. And Claiborne's another stallion from there is horse Greeley, the sire of the Vandal winner, Go Greeley, who is now a double stakes winner this year, and our leading 2-year-old colt. John Ross owns him. Another nice story because, as we've said before, he bought the 2-year-old for Bud Reynolds, the late Bud Reynolds, who passed away over the winter. And Go Greeley fighting it out head-to-head with Heart to Heart in the Vandal and an 80 buyer figure. So we'll see how Go Greeley and Skylander Girl do now as the races start to get longer because that will be the test.
I thought it was a very good race by Heart to Heart, the ship-in horse. It was only his second lifetime start. And I thought he gave Go Greeley everything he could.
And he's just a wee little thing,
too.
You
could see the difference between the two.
Coming down the stretch, it really was quite remarkable. And he's got that heart shape right on his forehead. Thus the name Heart to Heart,
Heart to Heart. So the 2-year-olds last weekend, coming up this weekend, lots of turf action, including the final leg of the Canadian Triple Crown that is on Sunday with the Breeder Stakes. But before we get to that race, Saturday's on-track feature goes as race number 8, and that is the Ontario Colleen. Lots of horses in the entries this week, I've noticed. And in the Ontario Colleen, there are 9 that are going to be lining up. You talked about Reed Baker. Well, he's going to be represented by both Big Brown Brooksy and She's Popular.
And both horses won turf sprints. And we're drawing away at the end there. Now, I found it interesting that Emma Jane Wilson rode both of those fillies in their recent races. Emma Jane is listed on She's Popular, who I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards over Big Brown Brooksky. But this Ontario Colleen is a super race. I mean, this is a really loaded field of some really nice horses. I think your favorite's going to be Coffee Clique. She's coming out of the dance smartly against older mares, a grade 2. The winner, Solid Appeal, of course, is running Saturday in the Beverly D at Arlington. So Coffee Clique is definitely taking a class step down for the Ontario Colleen and going to be very, very tough to beat. She loves the grass, and I think a mile is her best distance. But you have to look at a horse like, say, on a firm turf like Lee Court. Now, she's making her grass debut here. But how about this? Her half-sister, Barracks Road, won the Ontario Colleen a couple years ago. So Lee Court, coming off a win in the Duchess Stakes where she led all the way. She's going to be the one to catch. We'll see if they can catch her.
Yep.
Coffee Clique, trying to run her down. Like I said, I like She's Popular to be in the top 3 there as well. If you're looking for a couple of other horses that you don't know much about, Sky Treasure has never raced on the grass, but her second dam is Bold Ruritana, a champion turf mare in Canada. And Sky Treasure is also a half-sister to 3 grass winners. So she's a horse that's also looking like she might be more comfortable in a shorter race. But right now it's looking like Coffee Clique as a heavy favorite. Lee Court leading for most of the way, and She's Popular coming at the end.
And there's speed, there's enough speed for the closers to chase. So I think on paper anyway, it looks as though it's a race where there's a little bit of a mix of everything.
That's right. And if the railings are down, closer to the rail, and they usually are at this time
Should be
of
in
year.
lane 1. I think for Saturday and Sunday it's in lane 1.
And that helps the closers as well, because
Yeah.
the further out you get, the speed tends to last. But I think Coffee Creek is going to be really difficult to beat. And the Brian Lynch barn was getting quite on a roll last week as well.
Indeed, he does well with horses of all different categories.
Yeah.
He's going to be represented as well on Saturday on the card, and Sunday rather, in the one of two stake races, both of them going on the grass. I mentioned the Breeders wrapping up the Triple Crown. That'll go as race number 9 in the 10 race program. But before that, we've got the older horses in race number 6, and that is in the Grade 2 Sky Classic. $200,000 on the line. Interesting to me that you've got a horse that scratched from the Flaming Page last night, and that is Irish Mission, and she shows up here instead. She absolutely romped in the prep for the Flaming Page, but they opted to go here instead with her.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they're looking to try a little bit more of a solid purse with $100,000 in the Flaming Page on Wednesday night, and the winner was a shipper, left a message, who was quite dominant herself.
Yep.
Now Irish Mission has only tried this type of race against Grade 1, Grade 2 company against males once. And, Mark Frostad has been on the record saying, she was too eager that day and on the pace. Well, I'm a little worried here because it's a mile and a quarter, so she's cutting back a little bit from her romp, and probably she likes a mile and a half a bit better. Plus, there's not a lot of speed in this Sky Classic Stakes. I think you're going to see Grand Arch, the lightly raced horse that I'm really high on this horse.
Brian Lynch.
And I think Irish Mission's going to be up close, and I just don't know if she's going to be able to hold off the closers, and the two that I'm zeroing in here are Fort de Marmy, of course, who romped.
Won the race last year.
And then won the Singspiel on Plate Day in that monsoon.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen in the daily racing form they have the listed variant as a 76. Which means that the course was so slow, it was almost like as if they were going backwards in the times. So, he still got a 95 buyer figure. Now, obviously, Fort de Marmy, is he going to like the turf a lot more firm than what he had on Queen's Plate Day? Well, he won the Sky Classic on firm turf last year, so he's in great form. Look at those workouts since the Singspiel. So Roger Atfield has another horse in the race, Perfect Timber, who finished second to Fort de Marmy, and he was really thrilled with the way that lightly raced horse ran. So he's one to consider. But I think Brian Lynch has got a nice possibility here at Hampstead Heath.
Yeah, me too.
Lightly raced, second in the Nijinsky Stakes. Had a little bit of jostling and a little bit of trouble in that race, but surged late. And I think the mile and a quarter is going to be, just fine for Hampstead Heath. Emma Jane Wilson taking over. I think this is a horse to watch out for. A nice gray gelding by Macho Uno. So Fort de Marmy, we have another big favorite that's going to be hard to get past. But I think Hampstead Heath is going to be charging. I'm looking for Irish Mission to be third or fourth in the race. And maybe you could squeeze Perfect Timber in there as well.
So your top pick is Forte de Marmy?
Yes.
So you're going with a Forte de Marmy Hampstead Heath exactor?
Correct.
And perhaps with Irish Mission in your try?
Yes.
I got it.
That's it.
I like Hampstead Heath myself. So Long George is a horse that Emma had ridden in that previous race, and De Silva had ridden Hampstead Heath, but he's going to be riding Forte de Marmy. So Emma rides Hampstead Heath instead. Yeah. High percentage when you put Wilson and Brian Lynch together. They haven't connected for a whole lot of opportunities, but they do well when they do get together.
Oh yeah, for sure. And of course, Emma Jane Wilson is riding very well. That was actually another feature from last week. We could have remarked on how she won her first race at Saratoga. We could go Friday.
For Gary Contessa.
And an all-out drive and a sloppy track sprint race. So that was pretty thrilling.
It was nice. And it'll be nice, too, to wrap up the Canadian Triple Crown. Race number 9, going a mile and a half. The crowd loves it because they break where they end. They break right in front of the grandstand. There's always a big cheer. And just about everybody, I think everybody that was nominated, other than maybe one horse, have gone into the field. And we even have a horse that was supplemented into the field, and that is the outside horse, Who's Mr. Hughes for conditioner Mike Keogh. Is it going to be all about Up With the Birds? Well, the horse has not run since the Queen's Plate, where he was a hard-charging second to Midnight Area. Malcolm Pierce training the Sampson Farms homebred, the son of Stormy Atlantic, and I did get a chance to catch up with Malcolm, and he gave us 2 minutes about Up With the Birds.
Well, Up with the Birds, he's a very easy horse to train. He's maybe a little too laid back, but it's worked out well for his races, and it's a shame that he didn't get going a little earlier in the Queen's Plate, but it was kind of a crazy day where we had a lot of rain, and it made the track a very speed-favoring track, which hindered us and helped the winner. But anyway, the plan was after not winning that race, we were going to give him lots of time because he'd had some racing this spring between New Orleans and the Fairgrounds and a race here earlier in the Marine. So we decided we'd just take a pass on the Prince of Wales and wait for the breeders and have a very fresh horse to go 1.5 miles this Sunday. So hopefully our plan was the right plan, and we'll all know that by 5:30 on Sunday afternoon. But I feel good about him going into the race, and I expect him to show up. He's had no reason for time off, just that we felt it was the right thing to do with the horse. So anyway, he, like I say, he just missed in the plate. He was running, and I don't think the 1.5 mile distance of the Breeder Stakes is going to be a big problem for him. Everybody's going to be going there for the first time. None of these 3-year-olds have run 1.5 miles yet, so we're all going to find out who wants that kind of distance. But I do know he likes the turf, as he just missed winning a stake in the Transylvania, the early part of the Keeneland meet, and he did win a little stake on the turf in New Orleans over the winter. So the turf is not a concern, and the weather is supposed to be good for the weekend. So it's going to be a great turf course, and I think a very good
So he's going with the freshness angle.
Yep.
They talked about the fact that if they'd won the Queen's Plate, would have gone to the Prince of Wales.
Obviously, yes.
There was nothing on the line anymore, having finished second in the Queen's Plate. Midnight Area didn't go to the Prince of Wales either, but Uncaptured, I think, was large and in charge in that race. The season that Malcolm is having on his own, but with the Samson horses, is, you talked about it back in February and March when we were talking about what was coming up this season, and you said, look out for the Samson horses because they are going to be tough. Malcolm's going to have a big season, and he is.
And, a little bit of a dry spell there in June and July, but then Smarty Fly won the Wonder Where, and the winds have been coming fast and furious since then on the grass and everywhere for the
Another one on Wednesday night, I think they had.
Yeah, another win for sure. So, I mean, look, the race begins and ends with Up with the Birds.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's no question this is the best horse in the race. I know there's, some people talking about the distance with him. Look, at this horse overcame incredible odds, a track bias, tough, hot day on the Queen's Plate, come from miles out of it to miss it. Hard to believe that he actually lost that race because I just think he's the best 3-year-old colt we have here going this distance. So I think he's even better on the grass. He's only run 2 times on it and a win and a second in 2 stakes events. So I think Up with the Birds, Eureka da Silva wins every race on the grass too. So I think there's a no-brainer that this horse is going to win. I think the Global Express, the Roger Attfield lightly raced horse, I think it's going to be a good weekend for Attfield. This horse was extremely impressive. Second time Lasix winning his maiden, pulling away. Okay, so he beat maidens, didn't really beat a strong field. But I think because of this field, we have a couple of maidens in here, and it's not really all that strong a field other than Up with the Birds. I think Global Express is a definite use in your exactors and tries. And, my favorite horse, Pyrite Mountain, who, ran against the bias in the plate and didn't fire. He, too, has been freshened. He is a much better horse on the grass. The only time he ran on the turf, he should have won easily that day. He got into all kinds of trouble. Mark Frostad's very excited to run him. I would be a little concerned about the distance for Pyrite Mountain. His breeding is strictly for 1 mile or less.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's a horse that has a little bit of a move, and then he tends to sort of stall. So Gary Boulanger is going to have to make his move very carefully there. So I'm thinking Up with the Birds over Global Express and Pyrite Mountain for third. But I think another horse you can put in the try is Reed Baker's horse. Scipio has never been on the grass.
Hasn't, and he was a pretty impressive winner, breaking his maiden last time out as the choice, and that was his first try with blinkers.
First try with blinkers.
So you can improve.
That's right. And Orientate is a very classy turf sire. The second, the dam is by Comic Strip, who was a tremendous grass horse. So tons of grass breeding. The horse is a long striding, dark bay colt who's going to love the distance. So Up with the Birds on top of Global Express with a couple of horses underneath in the try, and you should wrap it up.
Thoughts on River 7? Big race,
Loved
lifetime
him.
high,
Yeah.
94 buyer in gallon second in defeat to Uncaptured in the Prince of Wales on dirt.
Yeah, I mean, was it the dirt? Perhaps. He's had a lot of bad luck. Like I said, every horse that ran the Queen's Plate that ran against the bias is going to come back and run better next time out. So, like, that's why I say Up with the Birds and Pirate Mountain should run better. So he ran, he ran against the bias in the plate, ran a huge race in the Prince of Wales. I actually picked him in the paper that day to beat Uncaptured. He ran a very brave race. 1.5 miles on the grass. Okay, he's bred really well for the turf, but I don't know about 1.5 miles on the grass. I think it's just stretching it a bit.
Okay, and he has been through the grind of the Queen's Plate
Yes.
and the Prince of Wales, and now trying to wrap it up with the Breeders' Stakes. Hall of Fame time of year. August is always Hall of Fame month, and we have some notables that very deserving to be inducted.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a fun night this evening to see trainers Phil England and Sid Attard be inducted. Bruce Walker, who was essentially the first publicity media person for the Ontario Jockey Club and then for Woodbine, is being inducted in the communicator division, which is new this year. And the late John Secura, the master of Hillendale Farms,
Yep.
is going to be inducted. So great people there. Our horses are Sealy Hill, a horse of the year for Eugene Melnick. And Secretariat, of course. Another new rules this year, allowing horses that aren't necessarily Canadian bred or Canadian based. And of course, he ended his career in Canada. And Soaring Free won the Woodbine Mile, the Addo Mile, and ran very well in the Breeders' Cup Mile turf. I remember going down to Lone Star to watch him race there for Sampson Farms. So it'll be a fun night. Lots of standard bred inductees as well. So everybody's well deserved, and hopefully we'll have time to celebrate.
I always figured that Sid Attard would be a Hall of Famer at some point. I've been saying that for a few years, and tonight he goes in with the class of 2013. So congratulations to all the inductees. Hall of Fame month, August, every season. That'll wrap up another edition of In the Winner's Circle. Lots of good racing action to look forward to on the weekend. Lots of grass racing action as we wrap up the Canadian Triple Crown. Is it all about Up with the Birds? We will find out on Sunday. Plantain, mango, if you're a little bit hungry. And you know how to cook plantain.
Sure, just slice them and fry them up. A little bit of, maybe maple syrup on there.
Ooh,
I'm liking it.
sounds tasty.
Yeah.
Hopefully we helped you out to find your way to the Winner's Circle. Good luck.